Right guys, it's jerningam here. This game is supposed to be coming out in E3. It's supposed to be an open world. I'm going to press play anyway. Most people have probably seen this and some people haven't. So there's a person playing as a shark, I think.
Welcome
Well, he
back,
seems to be a
guys.
shark.
Here with some Man-Eater exclusive gameplay straight from E3 2019. I was lucky enough to go to a private demo of this game, and I will be talking about some exclusive informations about the game right after this gameplay.
A breaching shark is a beautiful and terrifying sight.
As you guys can see, I got 2 cans of pop bottles there. It needs to be put in the bin in a bit, which I'll do that later.
Sharks will attack man whenever and wherever the two shall meet. This shark isn't quite ready to tackle the full-grown reptile. If you've ever eaten human flesh, then you know that while it has the red marbled appearance of beef, its flavor is more elusive.
It's fucking brutal, this does.
No one can tell what may be found in a shark's stomach. It's truly the ocean's garbage can.
And that bloody Jaws, this is.
So, in Man-Eater, you will be able to explore 7 regions, each with their own stories and environments, like massive beaches and cities, to swamps, docks, and many more. All these places will allow you to do massive carnage if you like to, but be careful as each regions have apex predators, which are extremely hard bosses. If you take on these bosses and win, you will be the alpha of the region. At the beginning of the game, you will start as a baby shark, which means you will not be able to take on everyone like you want to, as you are at the minimum of your development as a shark. There are 4 types of developments: baby, adult, senior, and mega, which resembles the most Megalodon. You'll also be able to customize every part of your shark the way you want to, whether it be evolving your teeth, your head, and everything. There is also many types of shark hunter which are trying to kill you. Alright guys, if you like these E3 videos, then make sure you support by liking the video for a lot more. Thanks for watching.
Interesting gameplay, as one would say to me. Very interesting indeed. I want to see some more E3 things. More E3 games. I mean, there's a lot coming out this year for E3, as we all know. So, let's see. E3 2019. There's supposed to be a Marvel game coming out as well. This is the Marvel game. Or is it something else? It's like a game for Marvel
Hi, I'm
Avengers.
Rachel, and I'm here at E3 2019, where I've just had a good look at Marvel Avengers. If you're feeling a little bit sad after Avengers Endgame, don't worry, because this brings you all the Thor, Hulk, Black Widow, and Iron Man goodness to help satisfy all your superhero needs. The game starts with the Avengers in a tough spot. After a disastrous day supposed to celebrate their powers, the crew are disbanded, and everyone's a little bit sad. Playing Marvel Avengers, you'll get to try out all the powers of your favourite superheroes. We got to see Hulk smashing his way around San Francisco's bridge. We got to see Black Widow with a new stealth move that turned her invisible. And we got to see Iron Man's trademark jetpack and flying around. Thor's got his massive hammer. And we get to see them face off against a villain called Taskmaster. He seems a tricky fellow, able to steal the moves of any of the superheroes just by watching them. The Marvel Avengers game features a whole new cast of actors playing the roles of your favourite superheroes. We spoke to one of the developers about what it was like casting for those iconic roles.
It's very exciting because, again, the opportunity to tell our own story was awesome. Number one, we're huge fans, and we want to be able to make a game that we want to play. And so we started with the story, and then we looked for who are the actors that could deliver a performance that would bring that story to life. So whether you're talking, about Nolan North playing Iron Man and bringing that a little bit of vulnerability, but also a little bit of that cockiness that really makes Tony Stark just the person who he is. You talk about Laura Bailey playing Black Widow, the quintessential super spy. You talk about Jeff Shine, Captain America, that leader who is a leader because he has to be, not necessarily because he wants to be. You look at Troy Baker, who's delivering just a perfect performance as Dr. Bruce Banner, and then Travis Willingham, the God of Thunder, just that. I love his voice for it. I'm not gonna do it the injustice of trying to mimic it, but I love hearing him crack the one-liners because that humor is just it's what you'd expect out of a story.
You'll be able to play Marvel Avengers either single player or with your friends in co-op. Your progression will be shared, so you won't be wasting any time, whatever superhero abilities you're using. The developers also promised plenty of content once the game's released. They've hinted at new worlds, new powers, and new superheroes. Marvel Avengers will be released on May 15th, 2020 on PlayStation 4, Xbox One, PC, and Google Stadia. For more from E3, follow Games Radar or me, the Rachel Webber, on Twitter.
Interesting. Well, that's just the way it is, I think. And you got all sorts of other games here called Doom 3 days ago.
These things destroyed my world. We have one mission. We have to stop them.
Ah, the bloody screen's gone off again. 2 minutes, guys. I hate it when the screen just decides to go off every time. We're having a lot of problems with this TV when it's doing this.
Oh my God, Tim. Corporate says we should let them through. Hey, who are you? You can't be here.
This game's Doom, I think. So a lot of people will be pre-ordering this and getting this at E3 or watching it there, or if you're a Doom fan. A lot of aliens on the game, I think. If this game's for you guys, you'll like it. You'll probably pre-order it and get it and tell your friends about the game, the Doom game.
Access to surface gun bridge granted. Manual loading initiated.
Override loading sequence. Fire. 3, 2, 1.
The screen's turned off again. It annoys when the TV screen just keeps turning off.
I'm charting a flight path to Mars. Calculating thrust vectors. Launching in 3, 2, 1. Approaching planetary entry phase. Prepare for turbulence.
Warning, the Slayer has entered the facility.
Interesting. If that's the type of game you guys would like, you'll probably like that one.
Hey, wake up. We have a city to burn.
This is Cyberpunk 2077. Should be out next year. Got John Wick in there. The films of Matrix.
At IGN, we're a bunch of different people with a bunch of different preferences, thoughts. We're individuals.
At least personally, I feel like I don't necessarily want to play 15 to 20 hours of what I was just shown.
It's very jarring,
Yes.
and I found myself feeling extremely uncomfortable during the demo.
If they get it right, it's going to be one of the most memorable and probably best Call of Duties ever in this annual long-running series.
I hope the game isn't 10 hours of that sort of feel, because that would be very intense and ultimately not very fun.
It is extremely visceral, it is extremely unsettling, but in spite of all of that, or maybe because of that, I mean, it's my game of the show.
This is the new Call of Duty. It should be in Iraq and London, apparently. A lot of people have been pre-ordering Call of Duty for the campaign, for the zombie mode, for the team deathmatches, for the co-op play.
There's essentially a terror attack in London. Spoilers, by the way. There's a terror attack in London. Your cell, Captain Price, Sergeant Garrick, who I believe is the protagonist, the character you play as, take a small, covert SWAT-style team.
Tier 1 operators.
Tier 1 operators. To do a breach and clear of this terror cell in this house.
A townhouse, yes.
Right.
It's real narrow, and it's just like 4 floors.
Yeah, it's a terraced house in North London. I'm from North London, so I can assure you that it looked very accurate. They even have the correct train on the train line, which was very...
That's impressive.
It is one of the most visually impressive games I've seen.
Yeah, the attention
It does look
to detail.
beautiful.
I think the most jarring part is that, of course, it's in London.
You're talking about the new
and
Call
you're
of Duty in
crawling
London
to
and
this
Iraq.
house, you're crawling, you're stealth
How good it's going to be.
Many people, many teams, many guns. You got your night vision goggles, like you're all suited up. But you're going into a civilian house essentially, and granted they are terrorists, but it's still weird.
On a technical level, I thought they were doing some really interesting things. Adding in some new mechanics that will make gunplay, will make the game itself a lot more interesting.
It reminded me of Mile High Club in the sense that there's, you're weaving your way through. There are a lot of people at very tricky angles. There are non-combatants.
Yes.
And the line between non-combatant and combatant is, every single level is explored to a greater degree.
Yes.
I think from a provocative sense, you start off, there are female combatants. There are female combatants being used as human shields that then grab a gun and try and shoot you.
Whether there are innocents involved or not, you have to kind of make that call as you go through.
And you're trying to do it as quietly as possible to not alert everyone else in the house.
Yeah,
and
because everyone has guns.
Yeah, everyone in this house has an AK-47 under their bed.
It looked like they were incorporating some Rainbow Six kind of style things where you can shoot through doors, you can shoot through walls, you can peer around corners.
Yeah, you've got the lean mechanic, which is really nice.
And enemies have that too. They'll pop their head around, and if you're quick enough, you can
It's unfortunate though, because like these mechanics are super interesting. Like they make combat a little bit more tactical. They give you a lot more options. Like the fact that, at least in this particular demo, like the environments were very destructible. That's all super interesting. But then it puts those mechanics at odds with itself, making you so uncomfortable to the point where, like, I at least personally, I feel like I don't necessarily want to play 15 to 20 hours of what I was just shown.
While you are going into a moral gray area, like that's exactly what it is. It is a morally ambiguous area. Your enemies are no longer wearing uniforms that denote that, like, it's not black and white anymore.
Also where some of the difficulty in, oh, it looks so beautiful and so realistic, so when I have to then shoot these people, it looks like you're shooting, like, whether they're terrorists or not, of course.
Infinity Ward is intentionally pushing buttons on this. And that's a risky thing to do, but and maybe they'll fall flat on their face, and this game's going to end up being offensive to anyone who's served in the military. I don't know. That is entirely possible if they get it right. And they remember this game's being headed by a couple of
former leads from Naughty Dog, so there's a pedigree there. If they get it right, it's going to be one of the most memorable and probably best Call of Duties ever in this annual long-running series.
I mean, I think it's really important to remember this was a demo. It was taken out of context, but in the context that they showed it to us, I felt uncomfortable, and it felt, I mean, I don't know, it just felt so real, and I know that's what they were going for, but I don't know, you can speak to this, but just like, that these are real life scenarios.
Right, and so the whole thing what Infinity Ward is going for is like these are instances taken out of the headlines, right? Mm-hmm. And when you approach that, it has to be done with such care.
Yeah.
And the demo we saw wasn't really given that care because, of course, we don't have the context. We don't have anyone saying, hey, this is where we're at so far, why it's okay for us just to go into the house and shoot everybody in there instead of taking them prisoner, except for like 2 people. And it's not very clear, and so it was just very jarring because of that.
Well, at one point, they break into a room, and you train your gun on the person who's in there, and it's a woman, and she's running to a crib, and she picks up a baby, and you're like,
right, and
what do you do there?
Well, I mean, obviously, if you're a good person, you don't shoot the baby.
We never really saw the consequences of any choices, how differently this mission could have gone. Yeah. What happens if you hadn't shot out that light? What happens if you do accidentally kill the woman and her child? Does the mission end? Does it change the story of the game at all?
Yeah, we don't know, and I think that's the biggest question for me is seeing out like whether there is a lot of choice that impacts the story, or if it is very much a story they intend to tell in a certain way.
If there is some kind of choice that you can make in the game, that wasn't in the demo.
Right, and so I think that would be if the headline coming out of the Modern Warfare reboot or reimagining, whatever you want to call it, if the headline coming out of this was you can play this game non-lethally, I think that would have. If that had been tacked on at the end of that demo, like that would have really changed my opinion of it.
I think it's how this moral system pays off. If there is any element of choice and the story they're trying to tell, is it just a realistic, gritty story that I read on the news every day? Because that's not a game I want to play, really.
For now, the gameplay that I saw, I'm with you. I thought it was compelling, it was interesting, and I'm already more interested in the Call of Duty campaign than I have been in years. I know that's like a backhanded compliment at this point, but it's actually true.
It's true for me as
very interested in what's going on with this game.
I'm looking forward to seeing more, to see what the whole game is. I don't know if it'll be fun, but it's doing something different, so I'm giving it that.
This is a new Call of Duty gameplay. Ben, just saw, guys.
I think absolutely. I think it's a medium to tell stories. I hope that Call of Duty read the line between being respectful, and I hope they're
There's Cyberpunk at the other side, and you got Call of Duty on that side.
Frankly,
Modern Warfare.
We'll see. Again, open-minded. I'm excited to see the multiplayer.
I just want to see multiplayer. Yes, that's what we love.
That's what I'm really excited about.
Yeah.
So.
Well, IGN. That was interesting. What else can we show then? Let's have a look here. 20 best new games. Says here.
We had a great showing of new games at E3 this year. Hi folks, it's Falcon, and today on GameRanks, the 20 best new games of E3 2019. Just as a quick disclaimer, these are new games, stuff that has been announced before we are not going to discuss. This does include a couple of games that leaked in the build-up to E3, but we're talking about games that were announced at E3. Number 20 is Outriders. Basically something that's vaguely tied to the Marvel Universe, at least possibly, keeping in mind that Square Enix has the Marvel license, and the Outriders served Thanos. We don't know if that actually has anything to do with this game. We'll see as more information comes out. It's a quote-unquote dark modern shooter that's a 3-player co-op made by People Can Fly, the developers behind Bulletstorm and Gears of War Judgment. It's a pretty intense-looking game, a lot of fire, a lot of guns, and a lot of people who look like they aren't terribly fazed by guns. And a big monster who's scary, but we don't know a lot beyond that. Still gotta say, looks pretty cool though. Number 19 is Contra Rope, which we got a trailer that shows off how over the top this game is probably going to be. It's a twin-stick shooter, it's third person, it's not strictly isometric or anything like that, which is nice, because it's definitely nice to see more twin-stick games giving you a little bit more view of the action. That being said, it does look very, very, very over the top. It's an alien invasion game. You're tasked with taking the aliens down, and that could be really good or really bad. We will see. I'm going to err on the side of positive here. It looks like fun. Number 18 is Crossfire X, a Western adaptation of the Crossfire online first-person shooter that has taken Asia by storm over the last decade or so. We really only got a cinematic trailer for it, so I can't really give you a lot of gameplay impressions, but it did look at least cool. It is going to have a single-player campaign, and I mean, that's a good start point for Nick. Number 17 is Spiritfarer, which is kind of being described as if you took the boat from the life to the afterlife and made it into Animal Crossing, which I know sounds utterly absurd, but honestly, from everything I've seen, it looks quite interesting. There is a little bit more of a platformer influence here. It is 2D and hand-painted and very pretty. You end up taking jobs, you take souls from one side of the river to the other, and honestly, it's an interesting and original-sounding game that I think is worth a chance. I'll definitely be giving it one. Number 16 is Roller Champions, a game that looks to dethrone Rocket League to some extent. It's basically a roller derby game. You're on skates, you're trying to score points, you're knocking other people down. And from everything that I've seen, it looks surprisingly interesting. It does in a lot of respects feel like something that could very much sort of take on the audience of a Rocket League, but it's a totally different game. It's fast, it's pretty, there's a lot of cool animations in this, and I really want to play it. I haven't had the opportunity to. Those who have actually say it's pretty darn good, so I'm definitely looking forward to Roller Champions. Number 15 is No More Heroes 3, which, if you are familiar with the previous games, it's a very quirky assassin game that's filled with absurdity. There's probably no better way to put it than that. What we've seen in the trailer here is some power armor. We've seen kind of a katana lightsaber thing, and in every way, it looks as absurd as the previous games, which we haven't seen one since 2010, at least of the core actual games, and it will be cool to jump back into Travis Touchdown's world. Coming in at 14, Gods and Monsters is like Greek Zelda, and that's obviously not how they're marketing it. I've heard the words innovative used while describing, and, well, maybe kind of Zelda. That's not bad, though. I'm not angry about that. Breath of the Wild is a great game. Honestly, I'd like to see more people actually take into account the things that Breath of the Wild does. So when we get the people who made Assassin's Creed Odyssey to be making a clearly inspired by Zelda, open world, Zelda-ish looking game, I'm definitely not mad. I'm intrigued. I'm excited. I want to play it. Coming in at 13, Ghostwire Tokyo is a pretty intense, fairly innovative looking concept in which people are disappearing in a dystopian city. Obviously, it's an exaggerated Tokyo, and we see some ties to various myths, and places you in a position
A bit like Shenmue and a bit like Judgment Game, this one does.
The occult.
But I would definitely get in this one, hopefully.
Don't fear the unknown, attack it. I think it's like, alright, I don't know even what it specifically means by attack it. It may just mean take it on, don't be afraid of it, go in. Whatever. I think that's a very interesting perspective, especially given how creepy the trailer actually is. Given it comes from Shinji Mikami, the famed Resident Evil visionary, and Akumi Nakamura, who has the kind of enthusiasm for this project you would want. I'm there. I can't wait to play this. I think it's going to be unique. And at number 12, Pistol Whip is a VR game that makes me go, hey, maybe VR games can be very cool. Really quickly, the developers of this game say the words John Wick about 400 times in their announcement video, and I know exactly why. Because it is a rhythm/shooting game that seems a lot like the club scene in the original John Wick as a rhythm game. They talk very specifically about how it's about reaction time, quick accuracy, and trying to get you to feel as though you are an action hero in that type of a situation. It looks amazing. As somebody who needs a little bit more selling on VR games, this was probably the first VR game that I've just immediately been like, yes, that's for me. I'm really looking forward to getting into Pistol Whip. And at 11, Tales of Arise is obviously the newest Tales game. It is a JRPG, and it looks very nice. Tales of Berseria came out in 2017. It's a great game. If you haven't played it, you should. And Tales of Arise looks to be just basically building on that. Basically what you would want from a JRPG. The intent apparently is to update the combat system, but it sounds like the story has to do with a large entity ruling over a planet, stripping people of their dignity, resources, and freedom. We all know what we're coming to JRPGs for, and it sounds like exactly what I might want. I love the Tales series. Give me more of the Tales series. Coming in at number 10, LEGO Star Wars The Skywalker Saga is, of course, the LEGO Star Wars. which is not the most serious retelling of the Star Wars movies. Here, it's going to be the entire 9-film Skywalker saga, which makes me very intrigued. It obviously won't be coming out before the final film of that saga, so obviously it's not going to spoil anything for anybody, but still, that's a clever idea. Saying, hey, we're going to do it for all the movies. You're going to buy one game, you're going to play through all the movies in signature Lego Star Wars style. I'm there. I like Lego Star Wars. It's fun. It's goofy. It's silly. It's a good release, and it's still Star Wars. Coming in at number 9, Rainbow Six Quarantine kind of has the looks of a more modern Aliens concept, with more of like a blob type, disease type, probably zombie type situation going on. It's a 3-player co-op shooter, and that to me sounds very interesting given it is a Rainbow Six title. It's most likely taking where they went with Outbreak and going with that. I think that's good. That's something I want. I think that concept could work very good as a co-op shooter, but we'll also have to wait to find out more because they were very vague about this game. And at number 8, Carrion is a game that they're calling a reverse horror game for the reason that you play as the monster rather than the people trying to get away from the monster. The premise is you, the monster, are imprisoned in a facility, you're being studied, and you escape. In a way, it looks very much like a Metroidvania to me, as well as kind of a physics puzzle platformer, but like much more violent, much more disturbing in its animation, and honestly really, really good. To me, looking at this just looks like such a great idea. It's not impossible to think of, what if you were the monster? Of course, but for the most part, that type of game isn't really done often or well. Evolve comes to mind. But making it as what looks like a Metroidvania, or at least close to it, as well as really smooth looking, I think Carrion is going to be a winner, and I cannot wait to get my hands on it. Number 7 is Bleeding Edge, which at the moment we're looking at what seems to kind of be a hero shooter in the vein of Overwatch, albeit very punk-oriented and a lot more chaotic. The reason for this is a melee-oriented game, which is a very different prospect than Overwatch. Now, we've seen some pretty cool melee games lately, and this comes to us from Ninja Theory, the developers of Hellblade, which is nothing like this. They claim it's been in development a number of years, but I don't know. I don't know exactly what to make of it just yet. It looks cool, though, I'll say that. If the gameplay is actually enjoyable by the time the game comes out, I think it'll probably be a big thing because, again, it looks cool and I like the idea of a melee Overwatch. And at number 6, Deathloop. Oh, I am so excited to see. Deathloop is a first-person action game coming to you from the creators of Dishonored, which if you know me and you know my proclivity towards the Dishonored franchise, I'm ready for more from Arcane. Thanks for stepping in and announcing something, guys. Deathloop is about 2 quote-unquote extraordinary assassins who clearly cannot be killed. Like from the trailer, they're killing each other and then they reappear and then they fight again. And we don't know exactly what that means, but it looks cool as hell. And it's an Arcane game, so we can assume that there's some kind of supernatural element to it. I can't wait. Deathloop looks awesome. Coming in at number 5, Elden Ring, which is a collaboration between From Software, meaning Hidetake Miyazaki, and George R.R. Martin of A Song in Ice and Fire / Game of Thrones fame. Now, what we've seen of it is very minimal, and I think you'll probably hear me say that a lot, but I do have to say I think it has the look, so to speak. Obviously, I mean the From Software look. It goes a little bit more high fantasy, and from what we've heard so far, it's going to be more like Dark Souls and Sekiro, and it's going to be bigger than anything they've done before. Coming in at number 4, Blair Witch is definitely something different. I mean, if there was ever a movie that was kind of made in a perfect manner to be a video game, it's Blair Witch. And for whatever reason, we never really got any attempts to adapt it. Blair Witch being a kind of low-budget horror movie that scared the pants off a lot of people because they thought it was real. There have not really been a lot of found footage movies up until that point, and for whatever reason, nobody's really done like a full-blown, hey, I'm going to attempt to make this movie, but as a game. In that respect, this looks very promising. They really nailed quite a feel from the trailer that I think is very conducive to what that game would be, and I really look forward to finding out more about it. And at number 3, Baldurs Gate 3 is a sequel to the long-thought-dead series, Baldurs Gate, of course, and in truth, we've seen a very minimal amount of this game. We just got a cinematic trailer, we just know that it exists, The devs were on stage, they talked a little bit, not a lot. I think we are all excited to know that the developers of Divinity Original Sin 2 are making the next Baldur's Gate game. I mean, that's a big piece of information, but beyond that, we have lots of questions. We saw no gameplay, we got no real specifics, but hey, we know we're going to get Baldur's Gate 3 before Half-Life 3, right? That's a pretty interesting fact. And at number 2, Watch Dogs Legion is an ambitious jump in the Watch Dogs series. Obviously, when the original came out, there were certain expectations, and they didn't quite manage it, but Watch Dogs 2, on the other hand, was a huge jump. Now, rather than rest on the laurels, it looks very much like they're attempting to do even more. That's great, because Watch Dogs 2 is a significantly better game than Watch Dogs 1. In a lot of ways, they do attempt to continue the path they were on with Watch Dogs 2, but they're adding things like a recruitment system, an old lady you can play as, which I'm not going to complain about, that's hilarious. And it seems like with Watch Dogs 2, they delivered on the promise of Grand Hack Auto, and it seems like they're expanding. I'm excited to see what they do with it. It's in London, it's very different setting-wise, and looks cool to me. And finally, number 1, Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild 2. Like, let's just go ahead and be very frank here. Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild is a great game. It's a game that sometimes takes a little bit of time to warm up to because it is very restrictive, very limiting, and can be pretty harsh regarding your weapons. But once you get into it, it's amazing. And seeing it gone and kind of not having things to do in it anymore was kind of sad in a way. Lo and behold, Nintendo's like, hey, we're going to give you more of that. All right, Nintendo, I'm there for it. Which of these games are you most interested in? What shows the most potential? What do you think will be the coolest when it actually comes out? Leave us a comment. Let us know what you think. And if you're not subscribed, now's a great time to do so. We upload brand new videos every day of the week, and the best way to see them first is, of course, a subscription. So click the subscribe button and the notification bell. As always, we thank you very much for watching this video. I'm Falcon. You can follow me on Twitter at FalconHero, and we'll see you next time right here on Game Ranks.
Well, that was very interesting, I should say, guys. 2 hours ago, I'm just trying to think what things are there. Well, guys, I hope you all enjoyed this short broadcast of E3 games for 2019 this year. Please like, comment, subscribe. Shout out the people that have made this video possible, the people's YouTube channels, what I've done these videos, what I've filmed on mine. Give them a shout out. Like and subscribe at my videos as well. And yeah, see you in the next broadcast. Thank you for joining me, and take care, guys. See you in the next one. Peace.